Hello, everybody. Hello and welcome. Let me know really quick if you guys can hear me, and then we will go ahead and get started on our Guideline Mastery Session Week 3. Can you guys hear me? Let me know in the chat. All right, I'm getting some yeses. Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Well, hello and welcome to another week of our ICD-10-CM Guideline Mastery session. Thank you guys for joining me. I hope everyone is having a safe and warm Monday. I know there's some snow coming in some different parts, so I hope everyone is being safe, having a good Monday, and I'm so glad that you guys can join us today. I am Miss Haley. I'm going to be your lead instructor for this class, and I'm excited welcoming some new and returning coders for our class. So we are going to be beginning our week 3. So we're going to be reviewing all of our neoplasm guidelines. So a neoplasm is defined as an abnormal growth of tissue. It forms when cells grow and divide uncontrollably. So it can be classified into 3 main types. It can be classified in benign neoplasms, malignant neoplasms, and precancerous neoplasms. So just a little info before we get started. So neoplasms can occur in various tissues and organs, and their classification depends on their potential spread. So we're going to be looking at all the guidelines associated with that. And we are also going to be referring to the neoplasm table to locate some of our codes. And if some of you don't know where that's located, the table is going to be in your ICD-10-CM book directly after the alphabetical index. And we're also going to be trying again to play our live Kahoot. I made sure to give everyone a lot more time on the answers this time. So we are looking forward to doing that at the end of class and testing our coding guideline mastery skills. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and read our copyright before we start our class. So ICD-10-CM copyright 2026, American Medical Association, all rights reserved. Fee schedules, relative value units, conversion factors, and or related components are not assigned by the AMA, are not part of CPT ICD-10-CM, and the AMA is not recommending their use. The AMA does not directly or indirectly practice medicine or dispense medical services. The AMA assumes no liability for data contained or not contained. ICD-10-CM is a registered trademark of AAPC. AAPC content found within this presentation is copyright of AAPC. Keyword concept FTR, CHUN, AMCI Fab 7, AMCI ICD-10, FLIP, TAP, and MCG are trademarks of AMCI. The credentials CPC, CRC, COC, CPMA, CPB, CPPM, CPCO are owned by AAPC. AMCI does not own the rights to these credentials. The credentials CCA, CCS, CCS-P, RHIA, RHIT are owned by AHIMA. AMCI does not own the rights to these credentials. All right, now that we got that long thing out of the way, let's do some review, some warm-up scenarios before we get into our kind of in-depth scenarios. So let's go ahead and get into it. So our first warm-up question of tonight is going to be, when an encounter is for treatment of a complication resulting from a surgical procedure performed for the treatment of the neoplasm, what is the first listed code? Is it going to be A, the malignancy, B, the complication, C, the surgical procedure performed, or D, the patient's personal history? I'll give you guys about 30 seconds to look at this. Good luck. All right, I'm seeing some answers coming in. Amazing participation. Thank you guys so much. So this is going to be our guideline that is going to be that's going to help us solve this. So it's going to be complication from surgical procedure for treatment of the neoplasm. So when the reason for the encounter is for treatment of a complication that's resulting from surgical procedure, the complication is going to be the principal diagnosis, and that is going to be coded first. And that's going to be according to this guideline right here. So this is going to make our first listed code be the complication. So that is going to be the first listed code when you encounter someone coming in for a complication from a surgical procedure. All right, pretty straightforward. Let's go to the next warm-up scenario. All right, so what code subcategory is used for a pregnant patient that has a malignant neoplasm? So is it going to be A, T45.1X5, B, Z51, C, 098.5, or D, 098.1. I don't know why it says AB. So just put what you think the answer is in the chat. I'll give you guys a few seconds with this one. All right, you guys are killing it in the chat. So once again, we are going to see what guideline is going to help us with this scenario. So the guideline that we are looking at is going to be malignant neoplasm in a pregnant patient. So I see that everyone kind of gravitated towards the O codes, which you would be right because, you know, when you think of a pregnant patient, you always think of using an O code. But in this case, when a pregnant patient has a malignant neoplasm, the code from the subcategory 09A.1, which is going to be malignant neoplasm, complicated pregnancy, childbirth, and the puerperium, should be sequenced first. So that is going to make our last answer, 09A.1, the correct answer. Amazing job if you guys got that right. I know a lot of people got that right in the chat, so if you did, amazing. All right, here is going to be our next warm-up scenario. Oh, and we already have our guideline that we can use. So this is a little clue. So according to the ICD-10-CM guideline, when a patient is seen for management of anemia due to malignancy, how is this reported? A, anemia is the only condition reported. B, the malignancy is the only condition reported. C, the malignancy is reported first, followed by the code for the anemia. Or D, anemia is reported first, followed by the code for the malignancy. Since we have our clue right here, I'll give you guys just a few seconds. You got it. Okay, and I see that everyone has used a clue because I see the answers are flying in. Everyone put C. So yes, so the guideline that we are using is the anemia associated with malignancy. That is going to be the guideline that we are using. So the correct answer for this one is going to indeed be C. The malignancy is reported first, followed by the code for the anemia. So great job, everybody. All right, and then this is going to be our last warm-up question before we get into some in-depth scenarios. So true or false, history of cancer can be coded if the patient is still receiving hormone therapy. A, true, or B, false? I'll give you guys a minute. Good luck. All right, all right. Great work in the chat. Great work, everyone. So this is going to be our guideline that's going to help us. So it is going to be current malignancy versus personal history of malignancy. So in the guideline, it states that when a primary malignancy has been excised, but further treatment, such as hormone treatment, is directed to the site, the primary code should still be used until the treatment is completed. So in this case, the patient is still receiving hormone therapy, so the treatment is not completed. So we would still use, so this answer would be indeed be false, because they are still receiving hormone therapy. So that is how you can determine a current malignancy versus personal history. So you wouldn't use history of cancer because they are currently getting treatment for it. So great job on that one, guys. Everyone killed it. All right. How are we feeling after those scenarios? You guys did awesome. I saw the answers were just flying in. Are we feeling good? Are we ready to move on for some more in-depth scenarios? How are you guys feeling? Let me know in the chat. I'm seeing our wonderful interns, our wonderful instructors are hyping everyone up. Amazing job, guys. Excellent work indeed. All right. Yes, let's go ahead and move on. All right. This is going to be our first scenario of the night. All right. So, Dr. Sloan is seeing his patient today with biopsy-confirmed laryngeal cancer. He presents to the OR to have the laryngeal tumor removed. After the procedure, the patient receives his first of a series of adjunctive chemotherapy treatments on the same day. Which code or codes best describes the encounter? Is it going to be A, Z51.11, C32.9, B, C32.9, Z51.11, C, Z51.0, C32.9, or D, C32.9. I'll give you guys about 1 to 2 minutes. Good luck. All right, I see you guys have a lot of answers in the chat, so we will go ahead. If you're still working on this, just keep going at it. All right, so this is going to be the keywords that we are going to focus on when solving this. So the keywords are going to be the laryngeal cancer, the tumor removed, the chemotherapy treatment, and same day. So those are going to kind of be the phrases and words we're going to be focusing on. And this is going to be the guideline that's going to help us solve this. So when the episode of care involves surgical removal of a neoplasm followed by adjunct chemotherapy, so he's getting the surgical removal of the neoplasm, which is going to be the laryngeal cancer, the laryngeal tumor. He's getting it removed. And then he's going to be receiving chemotherapy, and that is why we're focusing on same day, because it's followed by adjunct chemotherapy during the same episode of care. So that's why we're focusing on same day. You're going to code for the neoplasm should be assigned as principal. So in the scenario, during the same encounter, the patient's getting his larynx removed, and he's also getting chemotherapy. So with both of those happenings and all of those keywords, we are going to be coding for C3 2.9. That's going to be our principal diagnosis, and that's going to be for the malignant neoplasm of the larynx, unspecified. And we're also going to be coding for the Z51.11, which is going to be encounter for anti-neoplastic chemotherapy, because he's receiving them both on the same day. And so this is how we are going to, this is how we're going to sequence them. All right, so the correct answer is going to be B, which I think everyone in the chat got right. So you guys did amazing. Pat yourself on the back. That was a great first scenario. Yes, way to go indeed. Let's keep it up. All right. Oh. Okay, so our next scenario is going to be Miss Lovelace is admitted for radiation therapy for secondary malignant neoplasm of bone. Primary site unknown. She developed severe vomiting secondary to the radiation. What ICD-10-CM codes are reported? I'll give you guys about a minute and a half. All right, amazing job. I see some answers in the chat, so we are going to go ahead and go over this one. If you're still working, then please continue. All right, so we are actually going to be using two guidelines to help us solve this scenario. So our first guideline that we're going to be using explains that if a patient admission is for the purpose of radiotherapy, immunotherapy, or chemotherapy and develops complications, that you should assign code Z51.0, which is Encounter for Anti-Neoplastic Radiation Therapy, Z51.11, Encounter for chemotherapy, or Z51.12, Encounter for immunotherapy, as the first listed code. And so the patient is going to be admitted for radiation therapy. So we are going to be selecting our Z51.0 code as our first listed code. So that is what's going to be that's going to be our first. So that eliminates a few right off the bat using this guideline. And then it also says to use that Z51.0 as the first listed code, and it's going to be followed by any codes for complications. So to figure the rest of our sequences, we are going to focus on our second guideline, which is going to be Encounter for Treatment of Secondary Malignancy. So the primary malignancy will be coded as an additional code. So we're going to focus on that guideline. So it says secondary cancer is listed first when the treatment is directed towards the secondary site only. So it says in the scenario that Mr. Lovelace is specifically admitted for radiation therapy for secondary malignancy neoplasm. So that kind of helps, using this guideline, that definitely helps figure out what needs to be sequenced. So yes, so the primary malignancy will be coded as an additional code. So that's going to be coded after the secondary malignancy. So if you're in your ICD-10 alphabetic index, you're going to look for Encounter, and you're going to look with health services for radiation therapy, and that's going to guide you to code Z51.0. So this is going to be our code for Encounter for the radiation therapy. And then next, the code that we're going to be looking for, we're going to be going into that neoplasm table that I was mentioning earlier, that you can locate right after the alphabetical index. So in there, they have a column for malignant primary, and they have a column for malignant secondary. So if you look, this is going to be the code for the bone. So the secondary neoplasm is going to be of the bone, and that's what we're going to be coding first. And if you look at the columns, you're going to be coding it for the secondary malignancy. And so that's why you're going to be selecting the C79.51 next. So that is going to be the next code. And then that's going to be followed by the primary malignancy. And it says primary site is unknown, so we don't know what the primary malignancy is. So in that case, you are just going to go and look for neoplasm and then neoplastic right here. And this is going to take you to the column yet again, and it's going to be the primary malignancy. And so we are going to be using code C80.1. So that is why you're going to be selecting that one if you look in the neoplasm table. And then you're going to be coding for the vomiting, because it says that the patient develops severe vomiting secondary to the radiation. So you definitely want to make sure that that gets coded. And the code for that is going to be R11.10, which is going to be the code for vomiting unspecified. All right. Did that explanation help? I know that a lot of you guys just absolutely killed this one. I thought this was going to be a little tougher because we had to use 2 guidelines to get there, but nothing can get past you guys. Amazing job, everybody. Excellent work, coders, indeed. That was super awesome. That was a difficult one, so great work. All right, let's move on to our next scenario. Yes, and so that makes the answer A, Z51.0, C79.51, C80.1, and R11.10. So great job, everybody. All right, our next scenario for the night. Mr. Hufflepuff, a male patient, was recently diagnosed with breast cancer in the left upper and lower quadrants. Which code best describes the encounter? Is it going to be A, C50.819, B, C50.829, C, C50.229, C50.429, C50.329, C50.529, or D, C50.219, C50.419, C50.319, and C50.519. I'll give you guys about a minute and a half. You got it. All right. Amazing participation as always. We're going to go ahead and get our explanation underway. So, of course, here is going to be our guideline. So, if you read the guideline states that if the documentation is not clear, to query the physician. Since we cannot query the provider in this scenario, our task is to select the best of the four. So we cannot select option C or D because they are both specific to an area of the breast which is not documented. So C50.819 is incorrect because it codes for breast cancer in a female. And as we see right here, the patient is going to be male. And C50.829 is going to be the best answer. So right here, you can see how we found it in our ICD-10 if we look up the code. So it is going to be right here for malignant neoplasm of overlapping site of unspecified male breast, because it does not, it just says left, upper, and lower quadrants. And of course, it does say if it's two or more sites that you should query the provider, but we can't do that. So this is going to be the correct code that we are going to select, which everybody did. Again, I thought I could be a little tricky and trick you guys a little bit, but nothing can get past y'all because everybody got that one right. So absolutely amazing. You guys have definitely been looking over your neoplasm guidelines. So that is super, super awesome. Super happy about that. You guys are killing it. All right, let's move on to our next scenario. Yes, fantastic indeed. You guys are rocking it. All right, so Mrs. Mary Berry, I'm so sorry, Mrs. Mary Berry, a 65-year-old female with cancer of the temporal lobe, arrives at the radiation treatment facility for her second series of radiation treatment. Which code best describes the encounter? Is it going to be A, C71.2, Z51.0, B, Z51.0, C71.2, C, Z5 1.11, C7 1.2, or D, C7 1.2, Z5 1.11. You guys got about a minute and a half. Good luck. All right, all right. Let's go ahead and get into our explanation. I see a lot of awesomeness happening in the chat. All right, so let's see what guideline we're going to be using for this one. So this is going to be our guideline, patient admission or encounter chiefly for administration of anti-neoplastic chemotherapy, immunotherapy, and radiation therapy. Obviously, this scenario falls into this guideline because the Mrs. Mayberry, the patient, is arriving for radiation treatment. She's arriving at the radiation treatment facility. So she's going there specifically for radiation treatment. So it says patient admitted for radiation. So when the patient encounter is solely for the admission of radiation therapy, which they are, encounter code should be sequenced first, and then the code for the cancer being treated should be coded. So in our scenario, the reason for the encounter is the radiation treatment, like we said. So if you look, you are going to be using that Z51 code that you see right under here, that it states to code the condition requiring care. So it gives us a bunch of codes. They're here for radiation treatment. So we're going to be using the code Z51.0. So that is going to eliminate a few of the answers. And if you see right here, we're going to be using Z51.0, encounter for the anti-neoplastic radiation therapy. And then secondly, we're going to be coding the malignancy. So it's going to be C71.2, which is going to be the code for malignant neoplasm of temporal lobe, which is what our patient has. So that is how that is going to be sequenced. And you guys did there were some awesome answers. I hope that the explanation helped with this one. Yes, it definitely helps. Just always making sure that there's not some kind of guideline, that's going to have you direct your sequencing in a different way. And you guys are doing awesome. So let's go ahead and move on. So our answer, yes. So our answer for this is going to be B, Z51.0, and the C71.2. All right. And this is going to be our last scenario of the night before we move on to our live game. So a 47-year-old patient is here for chemotherapy for secondary carcinoma of the liver spread from cancer of the right areola. What ICD-10-CM codes are reported? Your options are going to be A, Z51.11, C78.7, C50.021, B, C78.7, C50.021, Z51.11, Z51.11, C50.029, C78.7, or D, C22.9, C50.019, or Z51.11. I'll give you guys about 1.5, 2 minutes. Good luck, everyone. All right. If you guys are still solving, please continue, but we are going to go ahead and get started with our explanation. So we are going to be using 2 guidelines to solve this scenario as well. So our first guideline, I know we've seen this before, I think we just saw it, is going to be for the patient admission or encounter being solely for chemotherapy, immunotherapy, or radiation therapy. So our patient in this instance is here for chemotherapy. So right off the bat, that is why we're using our Z51.11 code. So that eliminates, that still keeps them. So this is going to determine the sequencing. So we are going to have our Z51.11 as our primary code. So this is going to eliminate B and D. So if you go in the ICD-10 alphabetic index, again, I know this was a little tricky if you're looking it up in the alphabetic index. So again, if you're trying to find this, code, you would go to encounter, and then you would go to with health services for chemotherapy for neoplasm, and then that's going to guide you to the code Z51.11. So next, we're going to look in the alphabetic index for the cancer from the site. So this is why you're going to look at the table. This is going to be our other code that we're seeing. So yes. So again, our Z51.11, our encounter for anti-neoplastic chemotherapy. All right. And then this is going to be our next code, because they are there specifically for the secondary cancer. So when someone is here for a secondary site, that is why we're going to be using our second guideline, which is our admission and encounter for treatment of secondary site. And it says on here, when a patient is admitted because of a primary neoplasm and it's directed towards a secondary site, the secondary neoplasm is the principal diagnosis, even though the primary malignancy is still present. So that is why our next code that's going to be sequenced is going to be for our secondary malignant right here. So the secondary malignant neoplasm of the liver is going to be our C78.7 because that is why they are getting treated. That is why they are there. All right. And then our next code is going to be for the primary malignancy, and that is going to be the code that is located right here. So it's going to be the malignant neoplasm of the nipple and areola. So they were here for the secondary treatment for the secondary malignancy, and that is why it is being coded before the coding sequence. That's why it's being coded before the malignancy neoplasm of the areola. All right, and that is going to make the correct code A, C51.11, C78.7, and C50.021. All right, does that make sense? I know that using two guidelines are kind of a little tricky. Does the explanation help? I know that a lot of you guys just got that one right off the bat, but does the explanation help? Again, we always just have to make sure that there's not some sort of guideline that's pointing us into a different direction as far as sequencing our code goes. So you guys definitely, it just proves that you always have to look in the guidelines and you always have to double check and make sure that there's not something, because more often than not, there's going to be a guideline directing you into some different direction. Okay, thank you so much. Awesome. You guys killed that one. You guys did awesome on these scenarios. I thought I was going to be a little tricky, but nothing can get past you guys. You are doing great. All right, so now we are going to be getting to the fun stuff. So if you played the game before last week, I know it was a little fast. I made sure to program it so that we have ample time to answer. So if you have never played Kahoot before, then it's just kind of an interactive game platform that we use so we can kind of compete, have a little friendly competition with each other, and test out some of our neoplasm coding mastery guidelines. So you can, if you want to play, you can go on the website. You don't have to, it's not something you have to pay for or anything. You can go on the website, www.kahoot.it, or you can download the app, and then I'm going to give you a PIN number to put in. You put in your PIN number and you make your silly little character, and then you play the game. But if you don't want to do that, you are more than welcome to just put your answer in the chat and you can interact that way. However you want to interact, as long as you are participating and, getting your guideline practice in, then we are happy to have you. So I'm going to go ahead and thank you so much, Miss Rosa. Yes, Miss Rosa just put the website that you can go on in the chat. So if you look at that, you can go on there, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can go ahead and grab our PIN number for this game so we can go ahead and get started. All right. I will share my screen. Alrighty. Great. So the PIN number for this game is going to be 910-5616. So if you downloaded the app or you are going on the website, it doesn't matter either way. You just put in the PIN number and you will be able to enter in the game. It'll make you spin a wheel to get a little randomized character. And then you join that way. Or again, if you just want to put your answers in the chat, you're more than welcome to do that as well. I know every time someone new joins in, it restarts at 15 seconds. So if you didn't get in time, you can still put the PIN number in, you can still join. So it's not too late. But I see that we have a few people playing. And again, I promise, I made it. We have more time than last time. I know it went a little fast, so definitely lesson learned. All right. Oh, we have a bunch of silly little characters. Amazing. All right, and we'll get started in about 5 seconds. Oh, every time someone joins in, it restarts it. So we still have a little bit of time. And again, this is all going to be neoplasm guideline review. So that is going to be the name of the game. Oh, wow. I see a lot of people have gotten in. Amazing job, guys. All right. You'll give it a few more seconds. All right. I'll go ahead and get started in 5, 4, 3, 2. All right. Let's go ahead and get started. All right. So Guideline Mastery Session, Week 3. Let's get into it. All right. Question 1. A patient is admitted for treatment of anemia due to colon cancer. What is the correct sequencing? Are we doing Z51.11 first? Are we doing anemia first? Are we doing colon cancer first? Or are we coding symptom codes only? What are we thinking? I'm so glad that we are getting more time to answer this to answer these questions. All right. What is going to be sequenced first? Anemia due to colon cancer. You guys got this one. I know you do. I see a bunch of answers flying in. Great job. All right. Yes. So this is going to be anemia first. That is going to be the first listed code. All right. Let's see who's at the top. Fabulous Dingo. Fabulous. All right. Fabulous indeed. All right. Next question. Which anemia code is used when both the malignancy and chemotherapy contribute to anemia? So are we going to be using D64.81 chemo-induced anemia? Or are we selecting D63.0 anemia due to malignancy? So which code is used when both malignancy and chemotherapy contribute to anemia? Which one? You got a 50-50 shot. So let's see. Which one do you think is right? We'll give you guys a few more seconds because I know we just got. I'm glad we have more time than not. That makes me very happy that we have some time. Yes. I see a lot of answers flying in. All right. So the correct answer is going to be D64.81 chemo-induced anemia. That is going to be the correct sequencing. Thrilling Platypus, you are in first place. All right, next question. Patient is seen for follow-up after treatment for lung cancer and is currently disease-free. Which code is appropriate? Are we using D37, C18, D12, or D01? And if you have any questions specifically about this Kahoot game, because I know we're not going into deep explanation about these questions because they're just kind of review questions, definitely click the link in the that we're going to put in the chat at the end of the session, and you can ask, if you have any questions about this specific game, or if you have any questions in general, definitely make sure to ask that so I can get back to you with an answer or an explanation if you have any questions about any of these questions that are being put in here. All right. Follow-up treatment for lung cancer, currently disease-free. Which code do you think out of these 4 is going to be the correct code? Got about 10 more seconds. 3, 2, 1. All right. So it is actually going to be it's actually going to be D12 code. Again, if you have any questions, I can totally give an explanation. Make sure to ask in the survey. All right, next question. A patient has active liver cancer and is receiving care for nausea due to chemotherapy. How should the nausea be coded? Should it be red, do not code nausea, blue, code nausea only, Yellow, code nausea as an adverse effect. Or green, code nausea as a symptom. You guys got this one. I see the answers are flying in. I think, yeah, you guys got this one. Active liver cancer, nausea due to chemotherapy. What are we thinking, guys? What are we thinking? Give you about 10 more seconds. 5. All right, and the correct answer is going to be code nausea as an adverse effect. Yes, because chemotherapy is causing the nausea. Yep. So Bubbly Gazelle, you are at the top. And our next question, we are halfway through. A patient is admitted for surgical removal of a malignant brain tumor. Which code is sequenced first? Is it going to be malignant neoplasm of the brain? Is it going to be Z51.11? Is it going to be Z48.3? Or is it going to be history of brain cancer? What answer is sequenced first? Great job for you guys that are putting the answers in the chat. Surgical removal of a malignant brain tumor. I'll give you guys about 10 more seconds. Yes, exactly. With the previous one, yes. Nausea, side effects. So yes, it's the adverse effect. All right, amazing. Everyone killed this one. Yes, you would code malignant neoplasm of the brain as your first listed code. Great job. Bubbly Gazelle, you are still at the top. Our next question is going to be, how do you code a cancer that is completely eradicated but still being monitored? Are we going to code it as red? Primary malignancy code should be used. Blue, code signs and symptoms. Yellow, code as secondary malignancy because it is still being monitored. Or green, use a Z85 personal history code. The malignancy is no longer active. What do we think? Completely eradicated but still being monitored. Or if you have any questions and you didn't select if you don't select the survey link that is being posted in the chat at the end, you can always just put your question in the comments under the YouTube video, and I will get to that as well. All right, so yes, we're going to use code Z85, personal history code. Amazing job, everybody. Bubbly Gazelle, you are killing it at the top spot. All right, a few more questions tonight. Our next one is going to be, how is malignancy suspected but not confirmed coded? So are we going to go with red, no code is needed, blue, code the signs or symptoms, not a malignant neoplasm, yellow, code malignancy anyways, or green, code personal history of neoplasm? So how would you code malignancy suspected but not confirmed? You guys got this one. I know you do. Give you guys about 10 more seconds. Or get those answers in the chat. If you guys are putting your answers in the chat. I know I see some people killing it in there. Yes, almost everyone got that one right. Yes, you code signs or symptoms, not a malignant neoplasm, because it is not confirmed. Amazing job. And amazing job, Bubbly Gazelle. You guys are doing awesome. All right, a couple more questions. A patient is currently receiving chemotherapy for lung cancer. Which guideline applies? So is it going to be red, assign symptoms first, blue, assign Z51.11 as first listed code, yellow, assign the malignancy first, or green, assign Z51.0 first? Again, we used this specific guideline a few times when we were doing our scenarios. So you guys got this one. I know you do. Yes, and great job putting your answers in the chat. Great work. I'll give you guys just a few more seconds for this one. Yes. All right. Yes. You would assign code Z51.11 as first listed code because that is going to be for the specific therapy they are receiving. Thrilling Platypus now is at the top. The drama. All right. Which code category is used for carcinoma in situ? This is going to be located in the guidelines, as you guys know. So are we thinking red, D37 through D48, blue, D10 through D36, yellow, D00 through D09, or green, C00 through C97? Which category is used for carcinoma in situ? You will be able to locate that if you need to in the guidelines section under in our neoplasm section. If you need to give it a gander. All right, amazing. Yes, it is going to be D00 through D09. All right. Thrilling Platypus at the top, and I believe we have one more question of the night. Last question. Let's make it a good one. A patient has a malignant neoplasm overlapping the upper and lower lobes of the lung. Which guideline applies? Red, use history code. Blue, use overlapping lesion code. Yellow, assign unspecific sites. Or green, code both lobes separately. What are we thinking, guys? I know we did some guidelines with this one as well. Overlapping upper and lower lobes of the lung. About 10 more seconds. Yes, let's finish strong. You guys got it. I know you do. All right. Yes. Amazing. We would use our overlapping lesion code. Great job, everyone. Great job. All right. And great job. Thrilling Platypus has ended up the winner. Amazing job. And great job, everyone, doing their little dance in the bottom. All right. I will stop sharing my screen. And I will share our last slide. So we are going to be posting our survey link, like I was just mentioning. We are going to be posting our survey link in the chat. So definitely let us know how we are doing. Give us some feedback. I want to know if you guys are liking the games, if you're liking the interactive games, or if you would rather have just more scenarios. That would be awesome. If you would let me know that, I would. All right, let me see. Here we go. Yes, let me know so we can best help you guys, kill those guideline mastery sessions. You guys are doing an amazing job so far. I can tell that everyone has been looking over their guidelines before coming to class. It definitely shows. So I would like to say a huge shout out to the AMCI team that has been cheering and hyping everyone up all night. Great job. I couldn't do it without you guys. And I hope that everyone has a safe and wonderful rest of their week. And we look forward to hopefully seeing you guys in some of our other live classes that are coming up this week. And again, yes, let us know how we're doing through the survey and how we can make these classes better for you. And we hope to see you guys next week. Everybody have an amazing rest of their Monday.
$4,000 exam passers and free classes at AMCI. Learn to code straight from home or on the road at AMCI. We're on the East Coast, the West Coast. We're on